Live from the Hyundai studio in downtown Cleveland, it is the most important week of the high school football season. Week 10 here on the Ohio High School Kickoff Show. Win or go home as we crisscross this great state of ours in the fastest 90 minutes in all of high school football, bringing you the big games and the must-win games and the players making the big plays in those games. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Cairns. My team is ready to roll. My quarterback, Ryan Cavanaugh. Head coach, Bill Powers. We are ready for week number 10 outside of week 1, which is always great to start the high school football season, fellas. This is the big one. Last week, it was win to get in. Well, some teams did that. They got in. Some got in position to be in week 10. Now it's win or go home. But before we get into week 10, there's so many great matchups to talk about. Coach, your thoughts from week 9.
Well, Mr. Ohio, we haven't talked about much this year. Last year was a big topic conversation up here, and you picked the winner. And this year, I picked Paris Campbell Jr. But another name that's thrown out there, if one of our Twitter followers, Sean Sword, sent me, is Andrew Vaughn from Black River. All he's done this year is break the Medina County rushing record. Got over 2,000 yards rushing, 176 points scored. And last week, to break the record, 18 carries, 338 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not bad. So if Paris Campbell's not going to win it, I don't want one of these guys to have the winner. So let's maybe get some love for Andrew Vaughn out there for Mr. Ohio.
What I looked at from last week is that's a great player, but how about a couple great teams crashing helmets in Lakewood? It was Moeller coming up and losing to St. Ed's. And my question is, did we see a preview of the state championship in Division I? If that happens, guys, I, for one, will not be disappointed. These are two good football teams.
Yeah, and Coach Rodenberg and Coach Fanati would both love to agree with you. They would love to be playing in Week 15.
Yeah. And speaking of Coach Fanati, Mike, last week I said, you need to get the ball to Andrew Dowell. Enough of feeding Sean Crawford, and all Dowell did was 30 carries, 3 touchdowns. So I think Coach Fanati not only is listening and watching the show, but he's listening to me.
He's obvious. He's on the hotline. He wants to talk to you about this week when you get a chance.
All right. I know about that Maryland team, Coach. We'll talk off the air.
All right, let's take a look at the top players who put up some big numbers in week number 9. There's a lot of different guys to talk about. I love the guy on the bottom. He's always been one of my favorites. Jay Banez from Columbia. 359 yards, but 7 touchdowns as he set the Lorain County record for touchdowns. His head coach, Jason Ward, texted me, he DM'd me, he got a hold of me as many ways as he could, but he said, hey, your guy was on fire, and congratulations to Jay. Great kid. In a great program, and watch out for Raider football because Raider Nation is going to go very, very far this year. Luke Kennard from Franklin broke his own school record for touchdown passes in a season. He had 22 by ending the night with 24 and a 41-15 win over Brookfield. Chance Fry from Greenview accounted for 7 touchdowns in a 56-0 win over South Charleston. Ben Kearns from Fisher Catholic rushed for 245 yards, 6 touchdowns. Trell Daly at Wyoming, 265, 4 touchdowns, and they caught 3 passes for 2 more touchdowns. And Delonte Thornton of Fort Loramie ran for 6 touchdowns, 206 yards on 20 carries in that 54-0 win over Perry. Congratulations to all of those players putting up the big numbers, and there'll be some more this week. For our Panini's play of the week, I think it's pretty obvious who we're going to go with. We talked so much about Coach Ron Wright in Hudson, who had a game last week, kind of a big game, I guess, sort of, against Mentor. But his priority was his son, who plays football at Stowe, and he promised him he'd walk him across the field on senior night. He was there for senior night, then made it to the Kent State Airport, into the chopper, all the way to Lost Nation. From Lost Nation, boom, made it by the end of the first quarter. Easily the Panini's play of the week.
Yeah, Mike, I was at Stowe. I had an opportunity to see Coach Wright before, and I'd like to give a shout out to Stowe and their high school for being gracious enough not only to let the football players walk across with their parents on senior night first, but putting Mr. Wright up front. He did there. He was there with his son, and he jumped and got in the car on the helicopter, and the rest is history.
Yeah, classy move by everybody involved. That's why you play high school sports right there.
All right, we have a big game ourselves coming up here tonight. You'll see the replay at 11 o'clock. Frank Stams and myself had the call of this one. Riverside travels into Madison. First place in the Premier is on the line. Riverside's undefeated in the Premier. Madison with 1 loss, so they can at least clinch a tie for the pack. 7-2, Riverside sitting at 4, Madison sitting at 7. Coach, what do the Beavers have to do to make the playoffs and win this football game?
Well, say for Riverside, it's win and stay home. other than making the playoffs, you want to have a home game. And Riverside needs to win this game to keep that top 4 seed. And the key to them is they're getting their quarterback, Max Brubaker, who's played the last couple weeks and really has changed that offense. When he was injured, the offense wasn't as proficient as it was now. This is a kid who goes to the line of scrimmage, he gets 2 play calls, he counts numbers, and he picks the play call. Very advanced offensive scheme. I think he's the key to winning this game tonight.
Yeah, and for Brubaker to have a quarterback who Coach Boers has out there with the flexibility and the ability to read a defense and then put the offense in a position to run the best play possible, that's impressive.
Yeah, and don't forget they're going to have to stop a kid by the name of Brandon Davis, because Davis 140 yards last week, 181 before that. This kid is a beast, and you talk about what he's meant to the Blue Streaks, and they're at home. There's going to be a great crowd there in Blue Streak country, but he could be the key to the football game.
Yeah, Madison comes in with the ability to pass and the ability to run, but there's no question about it. The offense runs through Brandon Davis. I also like to look at the elements. A lot of people are calling for rain tonight, and that plays right into Brandon Davis and the big guys up front. Madison has a physical offensive line. They like to move people around. So if you're Riverside, get ready for a muddy, tough game and get ready for a lot of Brandon Davis.
Yeah, that should be a great football game. You'll see the replay tonight at 11 o'clock here on Sports Time Ohio. Now from there, let's move ahead, because it is win or go home in week number 10. The fellas have some thoughts on some keys they'll be looking at. Coach, what will you be looking at this week?
Well, Fairview Park, Coach Narducci, obviously I'm a big fan of his. He's done a great job there, but I think they may fall victim to their weak schedule. They're 8-1. And if they win, they have a chance to get in. If they lose, they're not going to make the playoffs. But even if they win, there's a chance they may not make it, because Perry is right behind them, and Perry's playing Chagrin Falls. Mm-hmm. If Perry were to beat Chagrin Falls and Fairview beats Lutheran West, there's a still good chance Perry might leapfrog them. So his rebuild happened faster than his schedule.
For me, it's a couple teams, familiar faces and familiar names that we might not see in Week 11, starting in Division I. Toledo-Whitmer, all they did was make it to the state championship last year. Right now, they've got to beat Lima Senior, a 5-4 team, to even see the playoffs. And here's another one, Trotwood Madison. Right now, they're 10th in their region. They play 6-3 Butler, and they have to win to get in. The last 3 years, state runner-up, state champ, state runner-up. What would the playoffs be without Maurice Douglas and Trotwood Madison?
We may have to find that out. That's a great question. A couple of good points there. All right, here's what's coming up on the Week 10 show. It's win or go home. Of course, we'll go around the state, get you ready for all the big games throughout our regional coverage. Riverside's pay-to-play program, they're paying some big bucks, and you give the parents and the players a lot of credit for the commitment to the Beaver program. Massillon's freshman sensation, quarterback Danny Clark. What a great story that is. We'll bring you that. Of course, it's pick'em time, and it's getting close. There was some movement last week. And, of course, if you'd like to tweet the Bill Powers Show, you can tweet at CoachBP24, because he seems to be the only guy who reads his tweets. And I think that's a shot at Ryan and I. We don't read our tweets enough. We'll work on that, but we'll start and get you ready for Youngstown. Dana Ballas joins us next here on the Ohio High School Kickoff Show. The Ohio High School Kickoff Show is brought to you by Panini's, with 18 Northeast Ohio locations. And by Discount Drug Mart. We save you the runaround. And by Wayside Furniture. Better furniture, priced lower. All right, there's a look at our final regular season power poll in Division II. The Tigers take the top spot. Zanesville, the Eagles continue to roll. The Mansfield Tigers with a Y, and they have been incredible offensively this year. And then the Wolves with a big win last week. They come in at number 5. Welcome back inside the Hyundai studio, along with the quarterback and the coach. I'm Mike Cairns. Let's get you ready for the big games, beginning with the Youngstown area. And Dana Ballas does it better than you just can't imagine. This guy's got it cooking. McDonald, Jackson, Milton, Wellsville, and Western Reserve. And he joins us now on the hotline to talk about some big games up in the Youngstown area. Hello, Dana. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mike. Doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing very well. Let's talk a little about this McDonald-Jackson-Milton game. In Division 6, Region 19, Blue Devils come in at 9, the Blue Jays at 12. But what a story Jackson-Milton has been. 0-10 a year ago, never been to the postseason. This game actually was a 4-overtime game about 6 years or so ago. Do they have a chance to get this thing done and make some history there?
Well, I talked to Coach Mark Ason earlier this week, and he knows what's up against. McDonald's a very good football team coming off a disappointing loss to Wellsville. Jacksonville, as you mentioned, Mike, has never been to the postseason. I mean, they have a good quarterback in Jeremy Fitzpatrick, outstanding wide receiver in Thomas Gatewood. who had 15 touchdowns. Tyler Schaefer, also a running back. This will be a tall task for Jackson Milton. Coach Ason knows that. He says we can only worry about defeating McDonald and then see where the pieces fall. But he's keeping his fingers crossed that everything falls into place for Jackson Milton.
Dana, it's Ryan Cavanaugh. I think if you look at a position on the field where McDonald has struggled, that'd be their pass defense. Do you agree that this matchup comes down to Jeremy Fitzpatrick and the passing game of Jackson Milton against those DBs of McDonald?
No question about it, Ryan. That's a good observation. I mean, Fitzpatrick is a very good quarterback, threads the needle very well, can throw the deep ball very good. That's where McDonald's pass defense is going to have to step up, and Dan Williams will have to have his team ready to defend the pass because Jackson Milton has done an outstanding job of throwing the football this year, and McDonald's defense, especially their DBs, will be called upon tonight.
Dana, you mentioned Wellsville coming off that win over McDonald last week, 31-21. That's our next game, Division 7, Region 23. The Tigers at 8-1 against the unbeaten Red Devils of Western Reserve. I don't think you can get a better matchup in Week 10 than this one right here.
No, and this could be a preview to maybe the Region 23 championship. I mean, Western Reserve, the top seed, they have a home game. Wellsville most likely will finish in the 3 seed, have a home game as well. I mean, this is what people have been talking about, these two teams. I mean, Wellsville, a new coach in Rich Wright, really has this team playing well. Western Reserve, I mean, they don't let the pedal up. I mean, they're up by 35, they're throwing the football, but that's what Western Reserve does. They've been doing it all season. Obviously, when you have a good quarterback in Nick Allison and the wide receivers in Salaska and also the running back in Dan Zilke, I mean, they are a very, very potent offense.
Yeah, and what a great turnaround would be. You talk about a new coach. They were 4-6 last year. They've lost 7 straight to Western Reserve, and Western Reserve coming off a week where they gave up 21 points, which was the most points they'd given up since week 4.
Yeah, that's very uncharacteristic of the Blue Devils. But again, they're a potent offense. I mean, this is a team 5 wide. They're going to throw the football. Again, they're going to be up. They're going to throw it. But that's what Andy Hates does. And I'm not sure Hates going to show everything because in the back of his mind, I think he thinks this could possibly be, they can be later in the postseason. But it's a wide open Western Reserve offense, and there can be plenty of points on the board tonight.
Dana, when's it all get going tonight?
We get going at 10 minutes after 11, Mike. We'll have highlights of 20 area games. Also try to break down all the playoff possibilities as we have about 16 teams from our area in playoff position.
Oh, the bell will be open late tonight, won't it?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dana. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys, have a great night.
The Taco Bell Report, and it will be open late. They get a free plug. What the heck? It is Taco Bell. From there, let's head south, down to the Natty. Some big games in Cincinnati. Marymount going up against Reading, and Lakota East and Lakota West. What a great football game that should be. Joe Daneman from Fox 19, a reporter all year long, joins us to preview those games here on the Kickoff Show. Hello, Joe. How are you?
Doing well, yourself?
Doing good. Let's talk about this Marymount-Reading game, a Division 5, Region 18 game. I had a chance to call a game there at Marymount earlier this year and see the Warriors. The best news for them is sitting at number 7, and the Blue Devils come in at number 9. They control their own destiny. They win, they're pretty much getting in.
Yeah, the thing about Marymount, and you kind of make this comparison to that mid-major college basketball team who has a good season. Everybody thinks they're in the NCAA tournament, but you get to the conference championship game, you can go ahead and make that a moot point by winning that game and guaranteeing yourself a spot in the big dance. That's kind of how Marymount feels about this game this week. Everybody thinks they're okay at this point. The numbers look good. They've won 4 or 5. Their defense is playing outstanding. They've given up 2 touchdowns or less in each of the last 2 games. But at the same time, you got to go ahead and take care of business on Friday night, beating Reading and making sure you get in. Because Reading right now, they're at 9th, but it's a distant 9th. They need to win. They need a lot of help. They're going to look back on a Madeira, Wyoming, Indian Hills 3-game losing streak mid-season as maybe the stretch that really hurt their chances to make the playoffs. But they did save their season last week, beating Taylor 20-10, and they've been a better team since they made a move at quarterback. Eric Wackendorf has taken over at QB. He's a junior, and they're unbeaten since that point. So, yeah, Marymount can go ahead and seal it with a win. Reading needs to win and get some help.
Joe, it's Ryan Cavanaugh here. Speaking of quarterbacks, Marymount, what it seems is they're rotating quarterbacks between Chris Casella and Kane Coates. How do you think that's working for Marymount?
It's working well because Kane's been more the passer of the two. Right now, he's second in the Cincinnati Hills League in passing. He's been very efficient with the football, not turning it over much, and has thrown for a lot of yards, whereas his counterpart's more of the runner. So they have a good combination of a passer and a runner, and it's really worked well to hit their 6-3 record.
Yeah, and they've just done that recently. When we called the game a couple weeks ago against Wyoming, it was all Kane Coates, and he's a big kid with a big arm, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do against Reading, because if they win, they're in. Lakota East, Lakota West, it's a Division I, Region 2 battle. Of course, for the Thunderhawks, they're sitting at number 19, and they need the points. The Firebirds have clinched. They're in. They just don't know whether or not they're going to host, so they'll be playing for a possibility of a home game here in Week 11.
This is fun because we're going to talk a lot about playoffs and how it shakes out, but these teams are going to talk about what it means to them to win this game, because this is a big rivalry game. It used to be one school back in the 90s, and they split after the 1997 school year, and since 1998, they played every season, and it's always a great game. Since 2005, they played the final game of the season, a little bit like Ohio State and Michigan play every year in the Big Ten. You mentioned Lakota East right now sitting at 5-4. They need to win. They also need the teams they beat to play well this weekend. And head coach Rick Cairns says, look, I haven't looked at any projections, because at this point, if you don't beat Lakota West, A, we know we're not in, and B, it's not a successful year because we didn't beat our rival. Now, all 4 losses for Lakota East came mid-season in a 4-game losing streak, but they've won 3 in a row. Rick Cairns says the difference is now they're limiting turnovers on offense and taking care of the football. Now, Lakota West, I'm not sure how much play they're getting statewide, but they're becoming a dangerous team. They've won 8 in a row since a Week 1 loss against Whitten Woods. And they're projected, as in and playing for a home game, and a team right now that looks very dangerous in the playoffs in this region, because certainly Moeller and Coleraine get a lot of play around here, but Lakota West is big, they're physical, their running back is going to UK, their quarterback just set some records down here as well in the Lakota School District, so they're a tough out, and a team that's playing really good football. They have to go to East, try to knock out their rival, and also improve their situation. So should be fun up in Lakota on Friday night.
All right, Joe, good stuff as always. Look forward to talking to you next week when we start to talk postseason and get some playoff matchups down there in Cincinnati.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Joe Denneman from Fox 19 joining us here on the kickoff show as we continue to cruise through week number 10, bring you all the key matchups in a win or go home scenario as we roll through the matchups here in the Hyundai studio. Much more to come on the Ohio High School kickoff show, including this.
And I'm Amanda Jahn in Painesville. Pay to play is becoming the norm in Ohio, but these numbers, they're huge. I'll introduce you to them when we return.
All right, taking a look at the final regular season power poll in Division 6. The Silver Knights, Bishop Reedy, got a big game against the Hawks of Hartley this week. The Hornets sitting at 2, the Valley Indians 3, Tenora and South Range round out our top 5. Then in Division 5, CHCA has had an outstanding season. So have the Columbia Raiders. We talked about Jay Banez's big week last week, setting the record in Lorain County for touchdowns. There's Hartley sitting at 3, West Jeff at 4, and Manchester at number 5. Well, welcome back inside the Hyundai Studios. I'm your host, Mike Cairns, as we continue to take a look at some of the big games and the big matchups here in week number 10. One of those teams, the Bengals of Benedictine, who are coming off a huge overtime win over Hoban. This week, they get Padua. Their first-year head coach, Joe Schaefer, joins us on the Coach's Hotline. Coach, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes to talk some Bengals football with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Big win last week in overtime over Hoban to set yourself up with a chance now with a win to put yourself in position to get into the postseason. Talk a little bit about how jacked up the kids are for this football game, which should be a great game against Padua.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a great game. Great opponent. Very well coached. And, their kids play extremely hard. And our kids are well aware of it. And they're just excited for the opportunity to play in this type of game.
A lot of key players for you that you're going to be relying on in this football game. Talk a little bit about your running back, your middle linebacker, the guy that seems like every college in the world wants in Jerome Baker, and how special a player he's been for you.
He's been tremendous. Each week he becomes a better and better leader. His athletic ability speaks for itself, but it's his leadership while we're at practice, it's his leadership off the field and things like that give these 26 sophomores that we have on our team, somebody to look up to as far as here's a kid who does it and who gets it and he's doing it the right way. And I think that's really where he helps our team the most. And that's what a lot of people don't even see. So,
from the work that you've seen from those 26 sophomores and those underclassmen, as you would put it, and especially in the two-a-days and going back to the summers, are you a little surprised that the team has where they are at right now? You've got a chance to get into the postseason. Did it develop throughout the season, and you thought maybe in the back of your mind, we got a chance to be pretty good this year?
I think we always knew that we had that chance to, do some special things this year. But from day one, our goal and our kids, the goal was clear to the kids was to get better every single day, and they've done that. And when we're improving every day, every week, every game, you put yourself in position to play in games like we have this Friday. So.
Well, with the coaching changes there, I know they've got to be excited to have you, and I'm sure for you, one of your big goals is just the continuity for the kids moving forward from this point on.
Absolutely, it's been huge for the kids. We've had a couple of guys on the coaching staff stick around, and that was great for their continuity. But these kids have all had me in class. I've taught freshman English here for 3 years, so I've taught every single one of them, and they knew what to expect coming into it. They knew it was going to be a change. There's continuity as far as familiarity with myself and with them, but they knew there were going to be some changes as far as just the attitude and what we were going to expect from them. And they bought in from day one, and I'm proud of them for that.
Talk about a couple of keys to being able to knock off Padua, where your focus will be in this football game.
It's where it always is. Offensively, we've got to take care of the football and execute. And defensively, we've got to be able to play fast. We keep it simple so that the kids don't have to think very much. They play fast and they play hard and they play together. And, we stress taking care of the football, and then on defensively, we stress getting it back. We stress takeaways. So it's the same thing every week for us, and if we can do those things, we'll be successful. Well,
Coach, we always appreciate being able to talk to the coaches, especially in a big week like this and so much on the line. Thank you so much for taking a couple minutes to talk about the matchup tonight. Best of luck to you this week, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you about some playoffs next week.
Absolutely. Hopefully, and thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. There's head coach Joe Schaefer from the Bengals, a first-year head coach. Benedictine coming off a 3-7 year last year, but with a chance now sitting at number 6 in Division IV, Region 11, with a win and some help, the Bengals could be going back to the postseason. All right, from there we head to Columbus. Some big Week 10 matchups. Reedy, Hartley, doesn't get any bigger than that. Licking Valley and Granville, and of course the sports director from NBC4, WCMH, the man who never turns down a good meal in the Columbus area joins us now, and that would be Jared Smalley. Hello, J-Rod.
Hello, what's going on?
You're going on, man. There's some great games down in your area, as always. You're going to be busy tonight and Saturday as well. Let's talk Reedy Hartley, because you talk about two teams. We talk about the Hartley schedule all the time, and they're number 1 in Region 17. They've clinched a home berth. They're good to go. They're going to be tough to beat. Let's talk a little bit about Reedy. They're sitting number 1 in Region 21. They've clinched a home berth as well, but really, more than anything, you're looking at two powerhouses converging for a little bragging rights right here.
Yeah, it's a big rivalry as is, but this year, obviously, with the success both teams are having, it's elevated a little bit more. The interesting thing about Reedy, 2 points about Reedy. First of all, they don't have a true home football field. So this game is actually going to be played at Hilliard Bradley High School, so they use that as their home field. So they don't have necessarily a home field advantage at any point during the season, which I think makes what they do even more impressive. The fact that it takes a little bit more to get the students and the fans out to a game. The other element with them is they haven't really been tested all season. Their best game of the year was also the first game of the year. They beat Newark Catholic by 12. And Newark Catholic, we all know, is a good team. But since then, they've beaten everybody with a chair. I mean, this has been incredible. They put up 98 points on Washington. When you think about what they've done this season, it's really been one of those remarkable things where actually every Friday night we sit and look, hey, what was the Reedy score this week? Because it's been that lopsided. This will not be that way. Hartley is going to be by far, in my opinion, the biggest test they've had.
Hey, Jared, this is Bill Powers here. Going back to your point there, their easy schedule, not been challenged this year. Do you think that they're going to have a tough time if they get deep water in this game in the fourth quarter? It's a close game, and their starters haven't played 4 quarters all year long. Is that going to be a problem for them?
Yeah, that's a great point because you don't know how kids are going to react in that situation. These kids, this year anyway, haven't really faced that. A really tight game or even being down in the second half or a tight game in the fourth quarter. They haven't faced that at all, and it's certainly not a competitive game since the first game of the year, a truly competitive game. So it will be a change for them. And Hartley's had to fight their way through. It has not necessarily been an easy year for Hartley. They did have a loss at home to Coldwater early in the season. Coldwater, as you all know, is a very good football team. But Hartley's, they've probably played a little bit tougher schedule. They beat Marion Franklin earlier this year, which was a very good win for them. So in terms of being, maybe battle-tested, you might say Hartley's a little bit more battle-tested. But, boy, Reedy is awfully talented. Great running back there in Achille Taylor.
All right, from there we'll go to Licking Valley and Granville. The Panthers coming in at 8-1. They've clinched a home berth as the number 1 seed in Region 13, Division 4. But the Blue Aces, it's a little different story. They're sitting at number 10 in Division 3, Region 9. Now they are playing down a division, so the secondary points will help a little bit. But it all begins tonight. Granville's got to win this game and then hope for some help. There's no guarantees if they win this.
Yeah, and I think, Granville has the potential to do it. They have an offense. Isaac Maurer, their quarterback, they have a high-tempo offense that can be difficult to defend. But Newark Catholic last week kind of had their way with them, limited them to 8 points in that game. So they are probably not playing as well as they would like to at the end of the year. They're a 6-3 football team. Licking Valley has gone the other direction. They started maybe a little bit slower and have really kicked it up a notch here at the back end of the season. When I saw Licking Valley earlier this year, they were struggling at halftime with Johnstown, who probably is not going to be a playoff team. Then you look at what they've done recently. They beat Licking Heights for their first loss of the year, and they've done it with the same way they always do it, a big, powerful running game, and they can throw it a little bit on you, too, and keep you on your heels. So, I think that's a very tough matchup for Granville to have to go in there and keep their season alive. That's going to be tough duty, I think.
Hey, Jared, it's Ryan Cavanaugh here. Looking at Licking Valley, Hunter Harshorn, their running back, 15 TDs on the year. He didn't play last week. Do you have an update on that? And also, will the Cowbells for Licking Valley be the difference maker in this game?
Well, first of all, I don't know about Hartshorn. I know that he's had a tremendous year. He's actually a former player of the week of ours, and boy, he runs with some power. He runs downhill. I'm not certain if he'll be playing in this game. I can assure you that Cowbells, because as we all know, if you watch Saturday Night Live, that the only prescription is more cowbell.
That's absolutely right. And now the real question is, are the fans going to be wearing gold-plated pants?
The gold-plated diapers.
Gold-plated diapers.
That's right.
He's kind of good.
I told you. He goes to his games. I told you right now. Jared, good stuff. We'll talk to you next week when we start to hook up the playoffs.
Boys, this was outstanding.
Thanks, Jared.
All right, see you.
Jared Smalley, sports director from WCMH NBC4. See, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, more than me.
He corrected you. Gold-plated diapers, that is. All right. Of course, our game of the week is coming up. You'll see the replay tonight here at 11 o'clock. Riverside and Madison. What a great football game it should be. Talk a little bit about the commitment. I mentioned it earlier in the show from the Beavers of Riverside. It is a pay-to-play or a pay-to-participate program, as they say, in the state of Ohio. Doesn't always guarantee you're going to play, but the commitment to pay the money that the Beavers players have played, and then to have their parents go ahead and shell out the money, and then to turn around and see what the football team has done, especially this year, has been outstanding. Amanda Jahn brings you the story.
The Riverside Beavers are poised to make their first playoff berth since 2007. In different times, head coach Dave Boers would be only worried about beating Madison tonight. Today, he's worried for the long-term success of his program due to pay-to-participate fees.
We made a decision as soon as we found out about pay-to-participate and where things are going that we're not going to sit here and whine about the problems. We're going to find solutions. So we've worked our tails off to find solutions. We have a great booster organization and we have a lot of support. But with that said, there's no question that there's 15 guys walking the halls that could be playing and should be playing that are forced to make decisions now, because there's no cap on pay to participate for families. There's no cap on pay to participate for how many sports you play. Each one's just individual and just keeps adding up.
Because of 4 levy failures, the school district implemented staggering fees. Anything extracurricular costs money.
Our Board of Education gave us the opportunity to self-fund all of our extracurriculars. As a result, we have some very high participation fees, and we've also lost some of our teams as well. Unfortunately, for the last year and a half, we haven't fielded a tennis team, boys or girls. A couple of 2 or 3 of our middle school teams have also been done away with, and so we're seeing fewer students being able to participate because of those costs.
Football was $200 last year. This year, more than $800. It quadrupled in just a year, forcing tough decisions for a lot of families.
When you have a little more skin in the game, when you have a little more invested, it maybe makes you think twice about the vision and the whole goal of why you're doing something and why you're here.
For senior quarterback Max Brubaker and his younger brother Michael, the Brubaker household pays about $4,000 for the boys to play both football, basketball, baseball, and hockey in just 1 year.
Definitely tough, especially when you have a younger brother on the team and your parents have to support for both of you. I know a lot of kids, their parents have to, pick up like extra hours or extra jobs just so they can play football, and it's ridiculous, the situation we're in, but can't really do anything about it.
If you're at Riverside, you work for every single thing you get. There's not one thing that's handed to you. You've got to work, whether it's our busing situation or pay to participate for extracurriculars. There's not one thing here that's handed to you and comes easily. And I think it's been, like I say, our rallying cry. It's almost galvanized us as a football program.
For the Riverside District, this issue isn't coming up on any ballots anytime soon. For now, pay to play is here to stay. In Paynesville, I'm Amanda Jahn for the Kickoff Show.
Thanks, Amanda. Great stuff. And again, that is a major kudo to the commitment from the parents to get the players in position to say, yeah, mom and dad's going to cost X amount of dollars, and can I have a check? And they go and do it. So congratulations and best of luck to them tonight against Madison. Much more to come here on Week 10 and the fastest 90 minutes in high school football. The Ohio High School Kickoff Show rolling on. We're looking forward to that game of the week tonight. 7-2 Riverside, 7-2 Madison. I'll have the call along with Frank Stams. You'll see the replay coming up tonight at 11 o'clock. Back with more from the Hyundai Studios after this timeout. All right, the power polls continue. Division 7, Marion Local on top, followed by Western Reserve, Shadyside, Triad, and the Bucks of Covington round out the top 5. Over in Division 4, Kenton, the Wildcats, River Valley coaches team continues to roll along. The Golden Bears of Bryan Kettering and the Falcons of Clinton Massey. Welcome back inside the Hyundai Studio. We continue to cruise through week number 10 in this crucial win or go home week. And of course, a win or go home show. From there, let's head out to the Lima area. A couple of big games we'll be checking out for you there. Lima Senior and Whitmer. And Rhino talked about them at the beginning of the show. Delphi St. John's and Minster. And the man who's helped us out all season long from Lima is Jason Geiser from your hometown news, WLIO. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Good, things are well here. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Let's talk about Lima Senior and Whitmer. We're still shocked that we're talking about Whitmer possibly not making the playoffs. They're almost an automatic. And then the Senior, the turnaround for Lima as the coach returns to his school, comes back, but he's got a big task to try and knock off the Panthers this week.
Well, it really has been an amazing story here in Lima all year, but we get now to week 10 and we learn that nothing is given to you. The story doesn't always end in fairy book fashion. So now the Spartans have to earn it, and they're going to need some help to do so. They're 2 spots out of the top 8 in Division II, Region 6. They had won 5 of 6, putting themselves in position to be here before running into that buzzsaw at Toledo Central Catholic last week. As far as Whitmer goes, they're 1/10 out of the final playoff spot in their region, so you would think a win gets them in. These two teams have only played 6 times. They've with them. Only 2 of those have come since 1974. Of course, that's since the formation of the track. And Whitmer's still Lima Senior in those 2 meetings, but this isn't that Whitmer team, and it certainly isn't that Lima Senior team. Spartans trying to reach the postseason for the first time since 1999. Like I said, they're going to need help. Number 8, Vandalia Butler, and number 9, Cincinnati Glen Espy, probably both going to need to lose. That is possible, though. Butler plays a 6-2 Trotwood Madison team. Glen Espy plays 3rd-seeded Winton Woods, so should be a pretty exciting end of the season.
Yeah, and Senior sitting there at number 10 in Region 6. There's 8 teams fighting for 3 spots in Region 6 and Division 2. And for Whitmer in Region 1, Division 1, there's 7 teams fighting for 2 spots. So we're not talking about a lot of room for either of those teams, and that's what Week 10 is. There's no room for mistake. From there, let's go to Delphos St. John's going and taking on the Wildcats at Minster and the Blue Jays. Again, we're talking about another team that possibly may not make it to the postseason. They lose to Elida, LCC, Coldwater, and of course Marion. Those are their losses this year. They go in, they've won 3 straight, but do they have enough to beat the Wildcats? They're sitting at number 9 in Region 22 and possibly gain some extra points and move back into the postseason where they haven't not been in quite a bit.
Yeah, not a bad loss in there. Too bad the losses, the quality of loss doesn't play into the conversation, right? It would be weird to not see St. John's in the playoffs. I mean, they've made 4 straight trips to the state semifinals before last year when they still got to the regional final. Of course, they won 2 state titles in there. Minster, too, though, that's a team that's been in the playoffs each of these last 3 years. They're certainly not both going to get in this fall. The winner of this one gives themselves a chance, but again, it's not a lock. Minster, Division 6, Region 22, 2.5 points behind Summit Country Day. They're going to need just a ton of help. St. John's is 9th in Division 7, Region 24, more than 0.6 of a point behind Mohawk. So I really wouldn't think that just a win was enough for either one of these teams, right?
Yeah, hey, Jason, this is Bill Powers. I had a quick question for you here. Going to put you on the spot. Who you picking this game? Who's going to pull it out? This is one of our pick-up games later. I want to try and steal some info from you.
Well, neither one of these teams is beating a team with a winning record this year. So you really, there's not a whole lot of common anything there to go to. Of course, they've got the conference opponents. I think you'd be silly to go against Delphos St. John's playing at Stadium Park, right? Both teams hot coming in. A lot of similarities between these two. So is this one where Vegas would just say, well, the home team's a 3-point favorite?
Oh, there you go. Good stuff. That gives us a little insight for our pick'em coming up a little bit later on in the show. Jason, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
There's Jason Geiser from WLIO, your hometown news station. From there, we head out to the Dayton area. A couple of big Week 10 games there. Springboro and Lebanon. Springboro in control, their own destiny. So are the Warriors of Lebanon. Butler and Trotwood, a game that Jason just mentioned that a couple of teams are going to be watching. And so will Jack Pohl, the sports director from WDTN, who joins us from the Dayton area to talk more about these 2 games in particular. Hello, Jack. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing? Can you believe Week 10?
Oh, man, it has flown by. Talk about Springboro and Lebanon, 2 teams that control their own destiny in Region 2, Division 1. Now, we all know 16 teams make it into the playoffs. You got the Warriors of Lebanon sitting at 15. Springboro is sitting at 12. Both of these teams on winning streaks. Springboro's won their last 7. Lebanon's come in 5 straight. So both of these teams are peaking at the right time. Does it make for a good football game, though?
I think it makes for a great football game, but I think what's really the wild card in this Springboro game is that the Panthers had to switch quarterbacks. I mean, they go from a senior to an underclassman mid-season, coming on I think a few weeks after their crushing loss to Centerville, where the Elks just went down there and destroyed them. And they bring in this kid, Elijah Cunningham, and it's as if they didn't miss a beat. Not to mention the turmoil that went with the team. I won't get into the specifics, but it wasn't an injury that knocked the quarterback out. It was just one of those ugly instances where kids make mistakes and it sends shockwaves through a team. And, it's nothing too horrible, but bad enough to disrupt the team to start a new quarterback mid-season. I mean, this was a team that's coming off its first Division I playoff appearance in history last year with a load of momentum this season. And all of a sudden, things change and new stars are born. And that quarterback, Elijah Cunningham for Springboro, is maybe one of the best stories in the Dayton area this year, just because this guy wasn't never expected to see any playing time, and now he's become a star. And it also helps when you have a wide receiver like D.L. Knox, who's one of the tops in the area. As far as Lebanon goes, though, real quick, the only thing I'll say about Lebanon is they have a good defense, and they're kind of a gritty team. And plus, this is a neighboring rivalry, just a few miles separate the school. this is going to be a fantastic game tonight, and both teams with a lot to play for.
And from there, let's talk about Butler and Trotwood. Trotwood's clinched. They're sitting at number 6 in Division III, Region 10. But the Aviators are a different story. They're hanging on to the 8th spot in Division II, Region 6. But the schedule, I mean, they've won 4 straight. All of those are losing teams. They were supposed to win those football games. But even though they're playing down a division, they're kind of stepping up in class, taking on Trotwood.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, the Trotwood Rams, this is a team that knows nothing but 15-game seasons. I mean, they practically play an NFL regular season. I mean, everyone in this senior class has gone to the state title game. Everyone on this team is playoff experience, and they know what it's like to get ready this time of year. Having said that, they got a sophomore quarterback behind center in Messiah DeWeaver, who's played fantastic football this year. And Maurice Douglas is one of the calmest, coolest coaches in the area, maybe the state, knows how to get things done, knows how to get his team prepared for games like this. As for head coach Greg Bush over for the Aviators, he's also a laid-back guy, and he has been able to weather the storm. You know, they played a lot of tough teams early in the year. They were one of those teams that, you know, had the bulk of the strength of their schedule right out front, and they struggled. You know, they struggled against Wayne and some of the more tougher teams in the GWAC, but now they're in position where they can upset Trotwood tomorrow night, or tonight, I should say, and good things can happen, and you know, don't count them out. It's a well-coached team. Not a lot of stars on that team, but they do have good coaching. And you know, Trotwood, has been known to keep teams in the game through the first half this season. If they do that with Butler tonight, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and I mentioned they clinched, and they had not. They're number 10 in the region. So we step back because Trotwood needs this game, and they certainly need the points. Can they win this football game? Who do you think wins it?
Oh, I do think Trotwood wins it. Now, don't forget, the biggest problem with Trotwood this year is that, you know, they had an open date. You know, they couldn't get, you know, they only played, you know, they're only playing 9 games this year. Well, that's a lot of points, and that's a lot of trouble. You know, you get upset down the line, and all of a sudden you find yourself in 10th place in the region. But Trotwood is just, this is their time of the year. And Butler is a young team with a young coach. They've been close, I think, 3 of the last 4 years. Their playoff hopes have come down to the final week of the season. It's no different tonight where they've got to win this game. So maybe Greg Bush finds that magic elixir and gets these guys to somehow upset Trotwood. But I still think the Rams have enough seniors on this team, enough D1 talent on this team that even with a sophomore quarterback, by the way, is very talented, I see them winning this game. I think Butler may be a year away.
Jack, thank you. Good stuff as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good. See you in the playoffs.
There is Jack Pohl, the sports director from WDTN in Dayton. All right, we're talking about our game of the week here on Sports Time Ohio. Frank Stams and myself have the call this one. You'll get to see the replay tonight at 11 o'clock. Should be a great game. Riverside at Madison. The head coach of the Blue Streaks, Tim Willis, joins us now on the Coach's Hotline to talk some Blue Streaks football. Coach, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes here this afternoon before a big, big game tonight here on Sports Time Ohio.
No problem. Thank you.
First of all, talk a little bit about the rivalry with you and Riverside and what this means to the community and how big a football game this is.
Well, this is my 24th year here at Madison, and, this is always the big game. You know, usually it means a lot. It means a lot of years it's meant who wins the conference, who doesn't win the conference, even going back to the old NEC conference. This is a big game, and within the last 3 years, it's meant who went to the playoffs and who didn't. So, this is a big game, and it's the same this year, 3rd year in a row. You know, winners in for sure, and, whoever loses might get in, might not.
Yeah, and this one, as you mentioned, you got extra bragging rights because you guys have a chance to at least clinch a tie there in the Premier with a win tonight. Last year, it was a 21-20 loss to Riverside, which eventually, as you said, you were the team that was on the outside looking in. Talk about some keys going into this football game, and I imagine offensively it begins with your great running back, Brandon Davis, who's just had an outstanding year heading into this game.
Well, Brandon is going to have to, carry a big part of the load this week. In big games, you got to have your big players do the work, and obviously he's a big player on offense for us. He's rushed for over 1,200 yards this year, and he's a big part of our defense too, being the free safety. So, he's going to have a big game, and hopefully it works out for us. Our kids have been working extremely hard since December to get ourselves in this situation, a league title and playoffs. So, we're very proud of what the kids in Madison have done, and, year in and year out, we're in this situation. So, very proud of the program we have here.
Well, as far as your team playing well, which is exactly what you want heading into a game of this magnitude in week number 10, you're coming off back-to-back shutouts. Your defense obviously has been getting it done and putting you in a position to win with that offense the way it's been clicking. But how happy have you been with the production the last couple of weeks and where the team is at right now heading into this football game?
Well, I think we're heading in the right direction. Like you said, our defense has played well the last 2 weeks. But Riverside brings a lot of different things to the table. They have an outstanding quarterback in Brew Baker, and they have an outstanding running back in Marcus Jones. Two big threats. And not doing the same thing. So we have to be very balanced on defense, and we got to make things happen on defense. So our defense is very good. We just got to overcome some adversity. We lost a couple players last week in our Lakeside game. Unfortunately, Ben Bruning, our fullback, broke his neck in the game last week, and is recovering. He's going to be fine, but it's going to be a 4-month deal. So, we're blessed that he's going to be fine. And then we had a boy thrown out of the game last week. So we're missing a couple key players, and again, we just got to, the other guys got to step up.
Well, I know that was a scary moment. I heard about the Bruning boy, and I know that he was in a halo, and I know that there were some really intense moments going in when he went into the hospital. But is he gonna be fine? Will he make a full recovery, or where is he now?
From what the parents and the doctors have said, he's going to make a full recovery. He has a halo on. He's in traction. It's going to be a long, gruesome recovery. But he has full feeling, full movement. He walks. He can move his hands, arms. He's got full movement. So we're blessed by that. It's just a matter of that bone fusing back together, and it's just a matter of time. So we're all thankful that he's going to be fine, but we wish he was playing with us this Friday because he's a great football player.
Will he be able to make it to the game, Coach, to see the boys before the game? Is that a possibility still?
I wouldn't put it past him because that's the kind of kid he is, but I don't know for sure yet, so I can't tell you one way or another. I'm hoping he's there, and hopefully, because obviously that would be a lot of motivation for our boys to see him.
Absolutely. Our best to him and his family and the entire Madison community. And speaking of the community and the high school, talk a little bit about what it's been like to build up to this week with so much on the line and playing a rival at the same time.
Well, it's, our community loves football. Friday nights in Madison is a big deal, and, we're people out here love football. So, we're glad that we put out a decent product for them, and hopefully we bring, Madison a championship home this week and go on and make a playoff run. That's what we have those goals, and we're here, and we just got to go out and win this week.
Coach, thank you so much for your time here this afternoon. I look forward to talking to you tonight before the game.
No problem. Thank you.
There is head coach Tim Willis of the Blue Streaks in Madison, sitting at number 7 right now in Division II, Region 3. That is our game of the week here tonight on Sports Time Ohio as they go up against the Beavers of Riverside. Much more to come here in the fastest 90 minutes. How do you get involved with the show? Well, the best way is tweet the crew. We get tweets. We read them on the air. Those are our Twitter handles. When we come back, we head into Stark County, where there's some monster games to talk about, and there's also a very, very good freshman quarterback. We'll bring you that story coming up next. There's a look at our big school, the final regular season power poll for the big schools. Coleraine up on top, followed by Fitch. McKinley gets Massillon this week. We'll talk a little bit about that game. And there are the Eagles and Moeller. Rhino talked about them at the top of the show, a possible Division I state championship preview. I don't think anybody would be too upset if those two teams met again for the state championship. Welcome back inside the Hyundai studio. Mike Cairns, along with Ryan Cavanaugh and Bill Powers, as we cruise through week number 10. Win or go home. It is a huge week, especially in Northeast Ohio. You guys have picked out 3 games in particular, win or go home scenarios. Let's start with Brunswick in Solon. You have a great history with former coach Nowak out at Brunswick, known for their defense. You know, Brunswick certainly has put up some big offensive numbers, but defense is going to need to beat Solon.
Yeah, the playoffs for Brunswick started last week when they beat Strongsville, their longtime Old Pioneer Conference rival. Offensively, we always know they have a great counter-down game and a great play-action passing game. But defensively, they need to get pressure on the quarterback to stop this explosive Solon offense. And that's going to come from Justin Bowie and Tyler Laffin, who combined for 14 sacks this year. Brunswick, defense, that's what they've done for years.
They're playing a Solon team, and I have some questions about Solon. How good are they? They come in 5-4, but their 4 losses were to teams with a combined record of 31-4. Those are some good football teams. On the other hand, their 5 wins, only one team that might make the playoffs in Kenston, so we haven't figured that out. We do know Antoine Hamilton knows how to run the football. John Sensabaugh, only a junior. The linebackers, a tackling machine. And the last thing I know, they're playing at home. And if you need to get in the playoffs and you need a win, have Coach McQuaid coach you at home. He's 50-8 on Solon's home turf.
Yeah, that's not a guy that I'd bet a sandwich against right there. I'll tell you that right now. That's a guy who gets it done at home, Coach McQuaid. Another big game, Kenston and Aurora. We know how good Aurora is. Kenston was a very young football team last year. They may even be a little ahead of schedule as they go into Week 10 this week. But still, they've got a chance to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, and they beat a very good West Geauga team last week, who's ranked number 1 in their region. That bumped them up to number 5 in their region. If they beat Aurora, they could actually have a home game, which would be a total shock for this team. That's way ahead of schedule. So they got a great quarterback in Parker Gadula, who can do it with his arms and his legs. And if they play like they did last week against West Geauga, they have a chance of hosting Week 11.
A big part of Aurora and whether or not Kenston has a chance is just George Bolus play in the first half. Aurora has been unstoppable when Bolus is there. They have 1 loss. That's to West Geauga. Bolus didn't play in the first half, and West G built a lead Aurora couldn't come back from. But since that game, not only has Bolus played well on the season, 1,000 through the air, 700 on the ground, but the defense has stepped up. Led by Ramel Pollard and Justin Wisbinski, the big defensive tackle. In the last 3 games since the loss, they've only allowed 3 total points. You know, sometimes, guys, when you have a loss, it's the best thing for a team, and that might be the case with Aurora this year.
All right, the final game you guys want to focus on, Padua and Benedictine. And Benny coming off a very unusual losing season last year. They're 3-7. You get a new head coach in Joe Schaefer, who's done an outstanding job. He's put them in a position, you know, it's school that prides itself on championships, to get back in, at least have a chance to compete for one. But Padua's not going to go away easy. This is a hard-nosed, tough football team. This is going to be a grind, I think, this football game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Talk about uncharacteristic seasons. Tony Schubin's done such a great job at Padua that for years they expected to make the playoffs every single year. Last year was a down year. This year will be categorized as a down year at 4-5. But this is a program that for years expected to win, and he's done that culture. And they have a really nice playmaker and a former coach's son, Nick Medaglia. He's a wide receiver, little guy, probably about $150, $160. But man, he can score from anywhere on the field. And I don't think that this game will be an easy game for Benedictine at all.
Well, Benedictine, they had to step up last week. Win or go home. The playoffs, that started last week for Benedictine. They responded. They beat Hoban in overtime, but it was a game that probably shouldn't have been in overtime. They made a few mistakes. But luckily, they have one of the top juniors in the country being recruited as a linebacker, Jerome Baker. But he did it on the ground last week. 3 touchdowns, 153 yards. Benedictine has been playing their best football of the season in the last few weeks.
Yeah, and throw in their outstanding wide receiver, Matt Maramey, who's going to Miami. So they've certainly got some talent and a chance again, as they're sitting at number 6 in Division 4, Region 11, going up against Padua. It should be a great football game. Great breakdown there, Northeast Ohio. At least 3 games in particular that are win or go home scenarios. From there, we head up to the Massillon area. Massillon, McKinley, one of the greatest high school football rivalries in the country, gets renewed this week. But with a little different twist, Massillon will be starting a freshman quarterback. Yes, they've had transfer quarterbacks. Kyle Kemp came in from Oregon. He started against them for a couple years. This is a different scenario. You're talking about one of the top freshman football players in the country in Danny Clark. And his assignment this week, beat an unbeaten McKinley team and try to get in the playoffs? Ashley Collins has that story.
Danny Clark is the first freshman to ever start a varsity game for Massillon. His first completion was a 70-yard touchdown pass, and it's all been uphill from there as he's recognized as one of the top QBs in the class of 2017.
I'm very grateful and blessed that I'd be able to be in this situation and be the quarterback for the Tigers, which is it's the best time of my life right now. I'm really having a lot of fun, and it's really great. I love playing for the Tigers.
I think his potential will be, one of the top leading passers in the history of Massillon in our area. So all of that's in front of him, and I think it's reachable.
I'm really happy that people were giving me that recognition, but also it's just I really focused on this season because I know what we have to do, and I know how important it is to lead my teammates to victories.
This week, Clark will be put to the test as Massillon will take on their biggest rival. Being under center for a matchup as important as this could be intimidating for a freshman, but the team has all the confidence in the world in their QB.
I love that I know my teammates believe in me and know I can get them the W. But I'm so happy and blessed to be out here with these guys. I love every one of them, and it's just a special experience.
He's got some good seniors around him on the offensive side of the ball, and they have a lot of faith in him. I think as soon as they see him throwing the ball and he starts making plays, I think that type of confidence over the course of time. But as you see on the offense, there's nobody worried that he's back there catching the ball.
The Massillon-Canton-McKinley rivalry is one of the biggest and best in the state of Ohio. And with all the tradition and bragging rights on the line in this matchup, the pressure doesn't seem to faze the freshman QB.
When I'm out there playing, I don't really feel the pressure and everything because I know everyone talks about it being a freshman, but when I'm out there, I have one goal, and it's just to get the win and go out there and execute with my teammates.
Well, probably the most impressive thing about Danny is he's a tough kid. I've said that several times. Obviously they'll be anxious and excited for the game, but once they all settle in, I see him being as prepared as anybody else. I mean, you prepare for the game all week. The Saturday part's just about execution.
Tomorrow at Fawcett Stadium, Clark will try and lead the Tigers to another win in the 124th meeting of this storied rivalry. At Paul Brown Stadium, I'm Ashley Collins for the Kickoff Show.
Thanks, Ashley. And again, if you don't know about Danny Clark, go to YouTube, number one, and look at him. Number two, if you get a chance, go watch him play. This kid's phenomenal. But welcome to the greatest rivalry in high school football against McKinley tomorrow night. Should this kid be phased in this game?
He should be. He won't be. I mean, this is a 15-year-old. First of all, any quarterback starting for Massillon in the Massillon-McKinley game should be phased, but he's been groomed his entire life for big game situations like that. That's why stars go to Massillon to play in this sort of atmosphere. Danny Clark will not be phased.
Yeah, he's got to do what they didn't do last week, is protect the football. He wasn't the main culprit. We had one interception against St. Vincent Mary's, but they put the ball on the ground 3 times, and that cost them. They can't do that against McKinley and McKinley.
All right, for much more on this game, and of course, the guy who knows Stark County as well as anybody, if not better, Sam Borkin, the sports director from WHBC. He joins us now on the hotline. Hello, Sam. How are you?
Hey, fellas. How we doing?
Doing great, doing great. I know this. You've called a ton of state championship games. You've seen these teams a whole bunch. Let's start with Massillon and McKinley. And we just had the story from Ashley on Danny Clark. Obviously, all of us are big fans, and just the ceiling for this kid is unbelievable. What's he up against McKinley, and can Massillon get this done to get into the playoffs with a win?
Well, I absolutely believe Massillon can get it done. You know the old saying, Mike, and you're a freshman, but by week 5 or 6, you're no longer a freshman. This guy plays with he's just a kid, and he plays with so much collectiveness and calm and cool. And yeah, he's been rattled a couple times this year, but my gosh, the competition they've played with Fitch and St. V and some other teams, it's going to have him ready for the game against Canton-McKinley. Bulldogs linebacking core, one of the best I've seen. They get some pressure around the ends, but their secondary is a little suspect, and I think that's if the Tigers go to work there, they can have a good day.
Sam, it's Ryan Cavanaugh. Reports from Coach Phillips. I want to talk about Eric Glover-Williams. He missed a couple games, came back last week. Coach Phillips says he's 90 or 95%. Personally, 8 carries for 19 yards last week. I'm not buying he's 90 or 95%. What do you think?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was surprised they even played him last week because they did not play him against Perry. I didn't think they'd play him against Boardman. They beat him 47-0. I'm sure the score would have been semi-close to that, even without Eric Glover-Williams playing. 90%, I don't know if I'd go there either. I'm thinking maybe 70, 75. But when he is close to healthy, when he's 80% healthy, I would take him over just about anybody in the state of Ohio. Now, with that being said, he's going to be a marked man on Saturday. It's either Eric Glover-Williams running or giving it to Jared Smith. The Bulldogs do not throw the ball a lot. They're going to have to shake things up a little bit, or like I mentioned, it could be a long day. But so much talent on the field, so much pressure. They're talking over 20,000 at Fawcett on Saturday. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh, man, it just doesn't get any better. You just sent chills down my spine just even thinking about it.
Come on down, fellas. We got
Absolutely. Another game you want to talk about, Jackson and Hoover. How good is this football game going to be? Give us some keys.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jackson, with a win, can get in the playoffs. Bo Balderson now in his 4th year at Jackson. They've been waiting. If they can get a win over their arch rival, I think they're going to make it in. Now, they may have to go to Lakewood St. Ed's or somebody the first week, but at least they would get in the playoffs. Hoover's had a tough year. Don Hertler Jr. lost his father, Don Hertler Sr., several weeks ago. That's been a trying thing for them. They were a young team. Grand Jean, the quarterback, has really turned his game up. I'm going to say about the last 4 weeks. I think they found a little comfort zone with him. They're playing better defensively. A lot of people, this is their rivalry game. It's at North Canton, Hoover. I think it's going to be very close. And like I said, pressure's on Jackson. They got to win to get in, and Hoover's trying to spoil things and finish up strong in 2013.
Sam, good stuff as always. Appreciate the insight. Look forward to talking to you again.
You got it, fellas. Have a great weekend.
There's Sam Borkin, the sports director for WHBC, and the voice there in Stark County for the state championship games, with a preview of a couple of big ones going on, including that Massillon-McKinley game. Much more to come here on the fastest 90 minutes in high school football. We continue to crisscross the state, and as we head to break, how about the Fox Top 50? We talked about some teams dropping out. There's Coleraine hanging tough at number 10. They have Oak Hills this week, but they're also getting a couple of teams to join them. They're Menor at number 40. They're at Strongsville, St. Ed's, and Moeller, rounding out at least our Ohio participants in the FoxSports.com Top 50. Much more to come here from the Hyundai Studio as Week 10 rolls on after this timeout. There's our final regular season power poll in Division 3. Fighting Irish St. V on top of the Fighting Irish of TCC. The Eagles of Hubbard at 3. The Pirates of Perkins at number 4. And then the Bulldogs of Plains Athens. Welcome back inside the Hyundai Studio. I'm Mike Cairns as we continue to cruise through the win or go home regular season finale of the Ohio High School Kickball Show as we get you ready for the postseason. Let's head out west to Toledo. A couple of big games to talk about out there with Will Kunkel, the sports director from WNWO, Patrick Henry in Wauseon, Southview, and Northview. And Will joins us now on the hotline to talk some Week 10 football. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing terrific. Let's talk some Patrick Henry and Wauseon. The Indians sitting at number 7 in Division 4, Region 12, but they do control their destiny, as do the Patriots of PH, who are sitting at number 9 in Division 6, Region 20. Now, PH had a bye last week. Wauseon beat Archbold 14-13. Most wins for the Indians since 2007. It's been a great season for them, but Patrick Henry is always a playoff-tested opponent.
Yeah, both these teams are, as usual, very good this year. The Indians, they have one loss, and it's against Bryan, who's undefeated this year, and they're in the playoffs in Division 4 already, so they're set to go. If Wauseon can beat Patrick Henry, as you kind of just mentioned, they're going to be in because they're sitting at number 7 right now. With Patrick Henry, they're 9 in Division 6, so they, too, have to win. So it's going to be 2 teams that have to win in order to get in. Patrick Henry, though, they've had some tough times. They lost to Bryan 28-6 and Eastwood 40-21. So they're going to have a tough time in their hands full with Wauseon, especially with so much on the line. And also in Division 6, Northwood is number 8, and they have an easy game this week against, you know what? I forget who they play, but it's an easy game for them. I do know that. They sit at number 8. I see Wauseon winning.
Well, Wauseon should be, I imagine it's got to be a great story for you and your viewing area. A team that was 3-7 last year to turn around and come in 8-1 and now playing for possibly a home game or at least a high seed in the playoffs.
And that whole division, that area out there in that region is loving it. It's not only Wasion. I mean, of course, the Indians out there and their fan base are energetic and love this. But Bryan and Genoa in Division 4 all are going to make the playoffs, assuming Wasion wins. And we did a story out with the midget football team out there, the little kids in Wasion, and they're talking about the high schoolers. So it's infectious and it's run through the whole city.
Oh, that is a great story. Talk about the rivalry between Southview and Northview. Of course, the Cats from Northview are eliminated, but not the case for the Cougars, who are sitting there at number 9 in Region 4. And obviously, they need this game for the points, and they're going to need a little help at the same time.
Yeah, Southview is going to beat Northview. It will happen. You can chalk it up right now. Northview is just, there's a reason they have 2 wins. They're just not a very good football team, but this is the trap game of the year, if you will. Northview can be the biggest spoiler in Southview history if they can win. But I don't see it happening. Southview, Griffin McDonald, their quarterback, has been great all year. And last week, they actually had Sam Stout, another quarterback that ran all over the place. Looks like Randall Cunningham on the field. And so they've kind of developed another aspect to their game, which is going to be huge going into the playoffs, assuming they do get in. But like you said, they need help in Division 2. They're sitting at number 9, and Massillon Washington plays Canton McKinley, which I'm sure you guys will touch on or already have in Division 1. So that's a huge game for the Southview Cougars. We'll be watching that here in Toledo.
Yeah, and with Massillon and McKinley, we have touched on it. You look at Southview, and you showed the record in those 2 losses to start the season. I mean, DeSales was a heartbreaking loss. They played TCC, and nobody's even come close to sniffing the Fighting Irish. But that 3-point loss at the beginning of the season, and you hate to look back when you look at the schedule, but even with a win and even the guaranteed win you give us over Northview, you look back at the schedule, the Perrysburg loss, but maybe even more importantly, that week 1 loss where you start 0-2, it was just too long of a road to come back from.
Well, you're right, and that's the second year in a row they've lost against St. Francis in week 1. They beat them last year too, and St. Francis was not very good last year. St. Francis is good this year. Chris Hedden says they're playing above expectations. I think they're playing right where they're supposed to be. They're a good football team, and so that did put Southview in a hole, but it was, a good win by St. Francis, and that's what got them in the playoffs.
Another team we talked about, too, and I want to get your thoughts on it real quick before I let you go, Whitmer. It's hard to believe that Whitmer's is in a playoff game when the regions realigned now, and you go 2 regions in Division 1 and 16 teams make the playoffs. Whitmer sitting at 500. I mean, it's almost unheard of. And this is a team that's penciled in to the Final Four, state championship runner-up the last few years. Your thoughts on them going into Week 10?
They're irrelevant at this point, frankly. I mean, and so are other teams. The only reason we're talking Northview is because they're playing Southview. Whitmer just has had a tough year. They're young, and the turnover bug has bit them horribly. They just turn the ball over at the worst time, and they're just flat out in a rebuilding phase, which is hard to believe for a program like Whitmer, but it eventually will happen to every school, and right now it's happening to Whitmer. But, they'll be back, and they'll be good next year or the year after that.
Thank you so much, partner. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week, Week 1 of the playoffs.
You got it, Mike. Take care.
There's Will Kunkel, the sports director from WNWL on the lowdown out west in Toledo. You still have a chance to rock the vote. Yes, one more chance to log on to foxsportsohio.com. There it is, heading in to the final week of the regular season. Come on back. We got more show after this timeout. All right, it's our favorite time in the show. There are the pick'em results, the records. Coach off a 4-0 week. He moves within 1 of the eventual regular season champ, who's at 24-9. Rhino sitting there. He is. And the fans have a chance to move ahead of Rhino. This would be a first in all the years we've done this, where the fans knock off one of us. It could happen this week. There's a look at our games. We'll talk more about those. Welcome inside the Hyundai Studio. Week number 10, and it is getting down to the nitty and the gritty, and we're going to do that right now. We've got 4 games to pick heading into the final week of the regular season. We begin with Upper Sandusky and Galleon. Upper Sandusky needs this game desperately to get into the playoffs. Coach, who do you like in this one?
Well, first of all, everybody knows you two guys are some of the top prognosticators in the state of Ohio, and everybody thought I was just eye candy with nice jewelry. Well, guess what? I'm proving that I'm more than that, baby. I got a brain. Here we go. This week, I'm looking at Galleon's offense. They're so explosive. A guy who should get a little consideration for Mr. Football, too, even though he's D4, is quarterback Darian Watkins, combined for 31 touchdowns rushing and passing this year. So with that offense, I'm going with Galleon because Sandusky's on a 2 out of 3 game losing streak.
I've never thought I'd hear eye candy from Coach Power.
I'm stunned. Does it matter who I pick? I mean, you saw my records. I'm mathematically eliminated at this point.
Well, just for the game, just play it anyways.
All right, I understand. Here's why this game's interesting. Upper Sandusky comes in with 2 losses, both of them by a point, and one of them to Bucyrus in overtime. Galleon comes in with 1 loss by a point to Winford in overtime. 3. That's interesting. 3 losses between the two, all by a total of 3 points. That being said, I'm going to go with you. Darian Watkins, Galleon, too much. He's one of the best players in the entire state. Northwestern, you're getting a good one next year. And Galleon, help make my record look a little more manageable.
Well, I'm going to agree with both you and eye candy over there. I am going to go with Galleon. I think Galleon knocks off the Rams of Upper Sandusky, and the fans agree. So across the board, we're sitting at Galleon. Game number 2, and this is always a good football game. St. John's and Minster. I can't believe that we're talking about the possibility of the Blue Jays, who seem to be playing for state championship almost every year, are on the verge of maybe not making the playoffs, Coach. If they can't win this game, give themselves a chance to at least get in.
Yeah, 2 teams that are very similar. They both have losses to outstanding teams, and they both beaten teams that aren't very good. So it's hard to tell which way these teams are going to go. I just look right now with Minster come up that big win, the double overtime against Versailles last week. They have a little bit of momentum, and I think St. John's not making the playoffs is like Ryan finished last in our pick'em segment.
Unheard of.
It's unheard of, exactly. But I think it may happen this year.
Not even possible. Where was I? Minster, Ethan Wolf, Sam Dews running the football. I think Minster gets it done, and then that would put Minster in the playoffs for the MAC in Division 6. You have Coldwater in Division 5, Marion Local in Division 7. You still have the chance of 3 titles and 3 divisions for the MAC. I don't think it will happen, but I'm taking Minster this week.
Death, taxes, St. John's in the playoffs. All 3 of those go together. I'm sorry. I just can't believe that we're even talking about that. We know the MAC's one of the best conferences in the entire state. It's again, I go, and Minster's got it. We talked about the reasons why Minster can win this football game. You laid them out perfectly. I look at these 2 teams, and the only edge I give is to St. John's. I look at the coaching staff, the history, what they've done in the MAC for, I don't know how many years that we've been doing this and more. I got to go with St. John's. So the fans go with Minster. So we're split this week. But no, I'm the only St. John's. We got 3 Minster and a St. John's. How about that? All right, let's go to game number 3, and this is a big one. We talked about it earlier in the show. Massillon and McKinley. Coach, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, this is by far one of the toughest games we had to pick. Massillon's got 2 losses to 2 outstanding teams. They got that outstanding quarterback we spoke about earlier. And you look at McKinley, what's their one weakness? Their pass defense. So that could be a problem. But I think you're going to have too much Eric Glover-Williams. You're going to have 20,000 rabid fans there as the home game. And when the game's this close, I got to go with the home team. So I'm going to go with 9-0 McKinley to become 10-0.
Yeah, I'm going to assume some of the 20,000 fans are actually showing up to help support Massillon. So
I would think.
They're going to be rabid on both sides. But in all seriousness, I think, as we talked to Sam, I think that Eric Glover-Williams is not ready. I don't think he's 100%, and I think Massillon's going to look to take the running of Eric Glover-Williams away, make him throw the football, and that's the secret to beating McKinley at this point. Another team, Mike, where I'm not sure how good McKinley is. They're undefeated, but they've had a lot of close games against teams that they shouldn't have had close games with. I'm taking the Massillon Tigers.
I agree with you. I don't know which McKinley team's going to show up. I love Coach Filtz, and I think he's done a great job in the last couple of years there. But without Eric Glover-Williams, I agree with you at 100%. And going on what Sam said, they're going to have to throw the football. Sam also said they don't throw the football a whole lot. If they throw the ball 6 times a game, that's a lot, because he's running the offense that they run. If he's not 100%, Jason Hall, man, he played defense in college. This guy will stack that box, and there will be absolutely no room for anything and force him to make a beat over the top. I don't see that happen. Massillon is a caged animal right now at number 8. I like the Tigers. I think they win. It should be a great game. Could be a low-scoring game, but I like them to win it. So who do the fans pick as we go? So we're split. A couple of McKinley and a couple of Massillon. This is going to be going on. Our final one, you'll get to see the replay here coming up tonight at 11 o'clock. Riverside goes into Madison. Both of these teams need this game. Maybe for Riverside, it's more of a position, but for Madison sitting at number 7 in Region 3, this is a win or go home game.
Yeah, exactly right. That's, Riverside has a chance to secure a home playoff game, which you absolutely want for Week 11. You don't want to go on the road. But Madison has to win or they go home. And I'm looking at what their team is built for. The weather could be difficult, and we talked about that earlier. The weather, they have one of the best offensive lines in the area. They have a great running game with Nick Yeager. And once you do that and you get those defensive backs sucked up, especially on a slippery field, a little play-action pass to the tight end, Nick DeLillo up the seam, and that could be the difference in this game. I'm going to go with Madison this game to make it, and they're going to win and go in the playoffs.
I think I'm mathematically eliminated, but I'm going to try and make up some ground on you. I'm going to go with Riverside. They've got Mad Max Brubaker, their quarterback, back. I love the offense Coach Boers has put in. I think they're peaking at the right time, and I know how important it is for Coach Boers to have a home playoff game on Riverside's field. He wins, he gets that, and that's enough motivation for me. I'm going with Riverside.
All right, I can't pick this game because I'll be calling it tonight, so I will get a couple of dashes for me. But what do the fans think for this game tonight in Madison? So they'll go with the home team in what should be a great game. And again, you'll see the replay coming up tonight at 11 o'clock here on Sports Time Ohio. That'll do it for week number 10, fellas. Don't forget, we got the high school playoff preview show coming up on Sunday here on Sports Time Ohio as we kick off what will be the beginning of a great postseason, all the surprises, and we've got you covered here on Sports Time Ohio right up to the state championship weekend. Well, for Ryan and Bill, and of course our producer Gene Winters, I'm Mike Cairns. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the games you're going out to this week. We'll see you next week here on the Ohio High School Kickoff Show.